Yo, JD here, and as you can see, we are back with some league racing action, this time for round 7 of the GASR series at Singapore. And yeah, you have seen, or if you haven't seen, I've uploaded many of the previous rounds. This is the current championship standings, and yeah, last race at Baku didn't particularly go to plan. I wasn't that happy with the setup. So kind of like at Suzuka, the race before that, I think it was Zandvoort, I did quite a lot of work to really perfect the setup. I'm definitely focusing a little bit more on the race because tyre management around here, although all the wear's not too bad, managing the tyre temperatures and just having a very raceable car that you could be consistent with, that was definitely the main priority. And you can see in Q1, managed to get through relatively smoothly. Had to do 2 laps on the used tyre just to make sure I did. But in Q2 here, I was quietly building the confidence. And you'll see as we finish this lap, we actually go fastest in Q2. And I knew my PB was in the 25. So yeah, going into Q3, I was feeling pretty confident. Needed to make sure that I'm consistent in this championship. Obviously, you can't win every single race, can't beat my championship rival, most likely every single race, but consistency is key. But round here, I definitely wanted to try and go for the win. This is a track that I actually thoroughly enjoy. So this is now my Q3 lap, and let's take you on board. So going into this turn 1, deciding to put it into medium rest and not getting a great bump of the effect through there, so lost a little bit of time. Go for this right-hander, let's see how this goes. Trying to cut the inside and managing to get a decent exit. But the first sector, I think for turn 1 and 2, we could have definitely executed that a little bit better. But this is my strong sector, the middle sector and the last sector. So just before the black box, could have took a bit of curb on that inside, so a little bit of room on the table. Going through this corner, did this really, really well, and you can see in the delta being rewarded quite nicely. This is probably my favourite corner on the track, this left-hander, then really using the curb over the right, miss the curb on the left and complete flat out, braking all in a straight line, and we get a really, really good run on exit, and we are pretty close to almost 2 tenths up on our lap. I'm coming through here just after the 100 metre ball, so as you can see, it's a purple middle sector, really, really good. But the guy is on pole, Almin, who was very, very fast at Suzuka. If you watch that race, he's done a 25.6, so we're going to have to find another 2 tenths in his final sector, and did this pretty well. And coming across the line, let's see how much time we can actually make up, and this is going to be a 25.8,
yep.
2 tenths away from pole.
25.8.
But I was pretty happy with that. I was pretty content, and you can see Carl was pretty close to the lead as well, so we maybe could have done a 7th. But I think this is probably the maximum, and this was actually the PB that I did, and I did it during the qualifying. So starting P3 here, I elected to start the medium tyres just in case there are some early safety cars, which usually happens at Singapore. So as the firefighters go out now, the goal is just to get a good start. You can see we get a much better start on Carl, but as we go into this turn 1, a Red Bull just comes out of nowhere and gives me absolutely no room, and that gives us a legal overtake, so we'll have to let it back through. And now that has allowed Almin to have a big gap. He's already out of the DRS, and yeah, as you can see by the title of this video, and you'll hear some comments here, this was a very, very frustrating race.
It means 0 room.
And yeah, like I said, throughout this, you'll hear me swear, you'll hear me be very frustrated. In the heat of the moment when you're driving and it's live, sometimes I'm a very emotional person, especially when it comes to league racing. If you've been watching me for a long time, I definitely wear my heart on my sleeve. Definitely easier to look at things in hindsight, but yeah, I was just quite frustrated here because yeah, not only did I get pushed off in turn 1, but now we've lost the DRS to Almin, and we saw how fast Almin was in his race pace at Suzuka, so I really didn't want him to get away, and this is going to make the race a lot harder than it needs to be. But as we complete lap 2, moving on to lap 3 of the race, you can see Almin's done a 29.4, and seeing that in race practice, I was in the very low 29, so I knew if I could get past this Red Bull, we do have a chance of maybe even closing in now because I was very, very confident in my race pace. So on the exit of this corner, getting the DRS, and you see he does a little wiggle here just to signify he's not going to fight this too hard. And now we're up into P2, and yeah, apparently it was 3 wide going into turn 1. That's why he pushed me off. He didn't mean to push me off, but that is the reason for it. But for me, I just really didn't want to lose the DRS to the leader, and now we're going to have to do everything we can. So to see the gap was 2 seconds, now it's 1.7, and you will see we actually start to close in on Almin. So our race pace is really good, but then the virtual safety car has come out, so someone's had a little bit of an incident behind, and let's see how long this lasts for. And we decided not to pit, so we're just going to mirror what Almin is doing, because I predicted there's going to be other safety cars. So as the virtual safety car ends, we're in P2 here, and the gap is now about 1.9 seconds. So I maybe lost a couple of tenths under that virtual safety car, but you can see as the laps go by, our pace was really, really good. And you can see on this lap alone, I think I've gained almost half a second, so was feeling really confident with the pace at this stage. And the longer this race went on, I felt like the more this would play into my hands. My setup was really good at tyre wear and dealing with tyre temperature, so the longer this went on, the better it was for me, as another virtual safety car now comes out. And this just added to the frustration a little bit. I just wanted to get into the rhythm of the race without any disruptions, because you can see we were really closing quite quickly. So this just allows the tyre temperatures to cool down, allows the wear not to be quite as significant as it was. So I was just really hoping we weren't going to have any more interruptions with the safety car, because I felt at this stage my race pace was the fastest on the medium tyre. We have Carl, my championship rival, behind me. He is on the hard tyres, so we've got to make sure we stay ahead of him. But I knew the undercut would be pretty good round here, and you can see we're almost getting into the DRS zone of Almin now. So I think we're going to stay on board for the rest of the lap, just to give you a bit of an example of what a lap typically look like. So really saving the ERS just for these first couple of corners. So my first sector, this was definitely my weakest sector. I was definitely a lot stronger in sector 2 and sector 3. I will be uploading this setup tomorrow, so if you are part of my YouTube membership, clicking that join button, from tomorrow, Wednesday onwards, you will have access to a setup which I felt was very, very good in terms of the race. But this is a sector where I really gained the time. I just had such good traction, such good tyre wear management with this setup, and you can see in this middle sector we are starting to gain quite a bit of time now. So just trying to get within that DRS zone, and once we get in that DRS zone, we can start saving the battery, going for this left right. This is where I gained quite a lot of time on my rivals, and you can see we're almost within that 1 second detection point. I think it was just before the bridge there, so we weren't quite within it, but now we are. So using the ERS again just to put him under a little bit of pressure. We've got a gap to P4 as well, so no real pressure from behind. And I felt like at this stage, if there's no more safety cars, I felt like we were in a very, very good chance of winning this race, because Carl, he's have to go in a little bit longer, and then he's going to be undercutted by all the medium runners, and then he would have to go through the traffic. So I felt like we're in a superior position as Almin now pits, so obviously feeling a little bit of the pressure from me being in this DRS zone. And I felt that was actually quite early, because the tyres do go off quite a bit. So I was going to extend this for as long as I possibly could, because even 3 to 4 lap fresher hard tyres is going to pay some serious dividends towards the end of the race. Plus there could be another safety car, because we've already had about 2 or 3 virtual safety cars at this point. So right here I decided to let Carl go. His tyres are going to be the faster, so the crossover point has well and truly gone now. So I'm going to use him to try and drag me along as much as possible. And you can see on lap 13 we're managing to stay just about with him. You can see the tyres are now starting to go, but now a safety car has come out, and this is absolutely perfect for me, because Almin had pitted about a couple of laps ago, and now Carl, he has to go on to the medium tyre, which I think from here can make it to the end of the race if there's no more safety cars, but his tyres are going to be absolutely shredded. So we're going on the hards, we can comfortably go to the end, and this is working out perfectly. But right here I was actually looking at this mini map, because coming around the last corner is that Toro Rosso, that AlphaTauri, that is Almin. So I really need to try and stay ahead of him because track position is really crucial. You do not want to be the third man in the DRS train around here. So as we're coming out the pits, you can see he's alongside me, and it is crucial that we stay out ahead of him, and we just about stay ahead of him. Yeah, that was very, very close. So right now we are really in prime position for this race. All we've got to do is not let Carl really escape my DRS if I can afford to, but even if he does and there was no more safety cars, I was pretty confident that the tyres would be coming back to me towards the race. You could see after even 9 to 10 laps, the hard tyres really started to take over, and we've still got 14 to 15 laps of this race to go. So making sure he doesn't get too far ahead of me, but the main thing is making sure I stay in a net P2. I do not want to be the third man in this DRS train because it is really hard to overtake around here anyway. Being the third man is not ideal, and I saw this as opportunity, so I have to try and follow Carl through, getting a little bit bombed out over the curb there, having to go around the outside of the AlphaTauri. Managed to get it done, and he decides to let his teammate go, so Almin has followed him through. And the goal right here now is to try and stay within the DRS zone of Carl, so his tyres will be much faster at this stage. But I think this just demonstrates right here that I felt like my pace with the setup in the race, in race trim in particular, was the best it's probably felt all season in a race. This was feeling like it was on absolute rails. You can see we still are correcting the car a little bit because there's quite a lot of low grip around this circuit, but I just felt so comfortable in the race, especially in this sector 2, sector 3. This is where I felt I was really at my strongest, and DRS is enabled after one lap, so we just got to try and stay with him after the first few corners. If we can do that, then we really are in the box seat of this race. So using a bit of the overtake, so you've got no pressure from behind as well. So again, I think right here, this is really just showing how much pace we actually had in this race. And if there's no more safety cars, you can see in the first stint I was catching Almin pretty quickly. I'm keeping with Carl here, and I've managed to stay within the DRS. This is just absolutely perfect. But we skip on to the next lap, and I think this is probably my first mistake I've really done of this race. I should have defended this much more, but you're about to see, and cue headphone users, a bit of frustration as well.
Fucking dickhead, man! What the fuck are you doing? Fucking idiot, this guy, man. And don't give the position back, that's okay.
So yeah, you can see very frustrated here, and you'll see on my face I was pretty angry at this point. For the rest of the race I remained pretty angry, but yeah, I didn't see his onboard. I haven't even seen his onboard, but yeah, I kind of left the door open there. Probably should have defended that, should have used a bit of ERS just to try and determine from overtaking, because it was really crucial for me to maintain that net P2, and now we've given it away. Again, I haven't seen his on board, but it felt like in the moment that he made contact with me before I even got into the corner, and I left just about enough room. But this has put me in a bit of a difficult position because I'm now in a net P3, and with this safety car now coming out, we are all going to be on the same freshness of tyres. There's only going to be 8 laps of this race to go, and the benefit of my setup is that it was very good on tyre wear. So now that everyone has fresh tyres, I'm in a net P3. It has just made the task much harder.
Fucking hell, man.
And you can hear again, a bit frustrated.
Yeah, it's going to be fucking impossible to pass him now.
And yeah, that's what I was thinking at this stage. I was just hoping there was no more safety cars. And yeah, I really needed to be in this net P2, because with the DRS, once that's enabled, it's going to be really difficult to Almin. I would feel like he would be parking the bus and he'd be using Carl to defend against me. So on this lap, I felt like I had to overtake him. There was absolutely no choice. And kind of a little bit of payback as well for the move he did on me, which again, I haven't seen his perspective, but I felt like there was some contact. Did leave a little bit of room on the inside. Could have left even more room, but I could also say that I should have maybe defended that. I think in hindsight, probably should have just defended it, and then he wouldn't have had any opportunity. But on this lap here, I was very determined to overtake him. And again, I knew I was really quick in the sector 2, sector 3, and you're about to see that here. So yeah, DRS is going to be enabled next lap, and once that happens, I felt like these two would just be overtaking each other, and it'd be really difficult for me to get into P2 because the straight is just not long enough for me and Almin to both overtake Carl. And if he's racing smartly, he would ensure I don't have that opportunity. But you can see coming off the exit here, he goes a little bit deep, and I don't think he was expecting me to use the overtake here. We're very fast in a straight line. What we're going to do is go leave some room on the outside, and yes, we do. We go find some space on the outside. He leaves me some room, and we go round the outside back into P2. That was a crucial move, and I remember at the time, and I'm sure he probably assumes this as well, I felt like that was a little bit of payback from the move that he did to me, and now we are back where we want to be again, in the driving seat. And arguably this is the best position to be in right now, because I can control, I can defend against Alma from behind, I've got the DRS from Carl in front, and I felt like I was the fastest car on track right now. But we are moving into the final phases of this race, and one thing I struggle with in this game is following a little bit in this dirty air, but in this first sector again, I always really struggled a little bit with the traction. And despite this straight after here, I was actually finding it difficult to stay with people and actually overtake them. So using a bit of the ERS, but you're about to see here now, Carl does his defend, does a little half defend, we go down the inside, he leaves plenty of room, we leave some room on the outside, but I can see he's gone out wide, and in the moment, I thought maybe, did I push him? A little bit of contact.
I'll let him pass.
And you hear me say there, we are actually going to let him pass, but I can confirm on his screen, I didn't even make contact of him, so could have argued I didn't need to give his position back, but I felt like with me complaining about Almin, I almost felt like I almost kind of did the same thing that Almin did to me, so I thought it would be a little bit hypocritical for me to complain, but then not return the position, and Almin did return the position, so I decided to return it. Could have been a good opportunity to break away because we actually had a little bit of a gap there going to sector 2 and 3, but the next lap, Carl doesn't fight this too much. I think there's just mutual respect between us. He decides to let me back through, and we are in the lead of this race. And right here now, it is in my hands. This is really my race to lose. And again, I felt like my pace was really good because if we look behind here, you can see there's quite a big gap to Carl behind. But it's just in this first sector. I don't know if it was the downforce levels, because I was running maximum downforce, 50-50 wings. Sector 2 and 3 are really strong, but in this sector, particularly this corner here, I always struggled to get the traction, and I think this is my second mistake of the race. I should have defended this much, much more. I should have forced him, or I should have really been in the lead going into this last lap, but right here, I just don't fight it at all, and in the moment I was thinking, well, I'm just going to have the DRS for the last lap, but I should have realised I was struggling quite a lot in this first sector to even overtake people. So if you get a really good exit after sector 1 or the first few corners, it's actually quite difficult to overtake. And you can see going through this last corner, we don't get a good run because this is the final lap. And again, I think I really should have put myself in the lead in this last lap, just maximise these first few corners, because I know if I can make it for sector 1, it's going to be very difficult to pass me in sector 2 and 3. So again, you can see going through into here, we just don't get a good exit. Always really struggling with the traction going through here. Coming off the exit this corner. Again, in hindsight, looking at this now, I think I should have stopped using my ERS. So right here, I should have just stopped. I shouldn't have committed, because now I've just committed to using all of my battery. And now we're going to try and go around the outside, because I thought if I could just stay ahead, go into sector 2 and 3, and go into this corner, I was expecting him to brake really, really late there to try and go around my outside. But he plays it actually really smartly, does a little bit of a dummy, forces me to go in deep, because I thought wherever he brakes, I'm just going to brake later. And that actually caught me off guard. But going through here, this was a really crucial point. So we're really, really close. This is really good. He makes a mistake going to here, but because he slides, we actually tap into the back of him, and that just kills my momentum completely. And as we go down into this right-hander, yeah, we almost do the same thing as we did in sector 2. Wherever he broke, I broke later, and yeah, just sloppy, just very, very sloppy. And I think that is a little bit of rustiness from not doing league racing for a couple of games. We could have just been much, much calmer on this last lap. And now we've got damage. We've got to try and get ourselves to the line. It's actually very, very close behind me, so I've got to make sure I do this. I'm in the P6 now, And as we try to fight going across, I'll use the overtake button, we just about hang on to P6. But yeah, that was a very, very frustrating race, a very frustrating end, because I felt like the pace was there, especially in a race. If there weren't so many safety cars, virtual safety cars, I felt like we did have the pace to do this, and we could have even broken away from the DRS. But I think some of the decision making, especially on those last couple of laps, I should have been leading going into this last lap, and I should have defended that position much, much more on the penultimate lap. And even though the last lap we had an opportunity, I think going into the first sector, I shouldn't have committed to all my battery. And then I think Carl just drove really, really smartly. He knew I was going to just really brake really late, so he let me go deep, goes for the switchback. And then at the end, again, I think if I didn't commit to inside, forced him to defend, we could have maybe even got him on the back straight. But that is league racing. That's what happens sometimes. You can see these are the current standings on the screen. So a couple of soppy races here, but we still have 12 rounds to go. And Silverstone is coming this weekend at Sunday, 7 p.m. UK time. So I really hope you enjoyed that. Frustrating, but I think I learned a lot myself just reviewing that and analysing it. So thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you very, very soon. Peace.